Part 1. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The blessed girl is pitiful. In summer, the sun scorches the earth. The heartbreaking cries of a little girl came from a home in Zhongyun village. "Aunt, Ning Ning really didn't ruin your clothes? You kid, you still want to quibble? That silk coat is expensive and was a gift from my sister's family. Now it's been ruined by you. You asked me to wear whatever I wanted to wear to the banquet. Did you deliberately embarrass me?" Aunt Jean scolded. "Increase the strength on your hands." The 4-year-old girl cried pitifully and huddled tightly in the corner. Her skin is fair, her big eyes are wet with tears, and her nose is pink when she cries. "It's not me, it's my sister." She looked at Qin Fangmei, the youngest daughter of the Qin family, standing aside. "Shen Ningning," Qin Fangmei suddenly interrupted, her voice rising instantly, "my uncle is a member of the Communist Party of China. When he knows that you have damaged my things, he will definitely not let you go." Aunt Jean raised the bamboo stick fiercely and slapped her hand hard. "Do you admit that you are wrong?" Shen Ningning screamed and hugged herself tightly with her little hands. "Ning Ning didn't do anything bad, Ning Ning doesn't admit it." The little guy was shaking all over in pain. Grandma Qin, who was locked up in the woodshed, begged through the window, "Stop beating. Gui Hong, I kneel down to you for Ning Ning. If you continue to beat her, she will die." Aunt Jean glanced at Grandma Qin disdainfully. "Hey, I'm not teaching the child for my mother. If you hadn't insisted on picking her up and raising her, I wouldn't be so angry now. Last time this little stole an egg, I locked her up for 3 days after she came out. She was vindictive and ruined my clothes. She was like this at a young age. Will she become a murderer when she grows up?" Shen Ningning endured the pain and raised her pale face. "I didn't eat secretly. Listen, the little orphan is a habitual liar. Can he do it without beating him?" Aunt Jean was so angry that she rolled up her sleeves and raised the bamboo stick again, and pulled it down hard. Shen Ningning hugged herself and huddled on the ground. "It hurts." Why doesn't Aunt want to believe her? The clothes were obviously burned accidentally by Qin Fangmei. That night she was in so much pain that she couldn't sleep, so she saw Qin Fangmei secretly take out the silk dress from the cabinet and put it on her body happily. While walking around admiring it, I accidentally knocked over the candle next to it, and 2 holes were burnt out of my clothes. She wanted to remind her at that time, but she had just been beaten by her aunt during the day and had no strength to speak. At this moment, Aunt Jean beat her hard, and the little girl curled up in pain. Grandma Qin was still begging for mercy, crying and sobbing, as if she was about to lose her breath. "That's almost enough. Let's go quickly, otherwise you won't be able to make it to your brother-in-law's birthday party later." At this time, Uncle Qin, who had been silent all the time, frowned and said, he was already upset. It was a year of disaster, and his family's fields had not harvested for a year. "I will see your brother-in-law later and ask him to think of a way to find a job for me in the city, otherwise the rice jars at home will be bottomed out." Listening to her husband's words, Aunt Jean snorted coldly, threw away the bamboo stick, and glanced at Grandma Qin. "It's not all your mother's fault. You had to pick up a child 4 years ago. This burden can't be done. He eats it every day. If we drink food from home, the food must be consumed quickly. If I were her, I would have no shame in living." Uncle Qin had a sullen face and did not dare to refute anything. He only urged Aunt Jean to go back to the house and change clothes. The family got into the bullock cart borrowed from the village chief's house and were about to leave. Qin Fangmei saw sharply that Shen Ningning was kneeling on the ground and wanted to stand up. "Mom. Let Shen Ningning kneel here and reflect, and teach her a lesson. We are right? Shen Ningning, just kneel here. If I come back and find that you have moved a little bit, let's see how I deal with you." When Qin Fangmei heard this, she thought it was not enough. She picked up a stone, drew a very small circle around Shen Ningning's kneeling position, and warned with a smile. "If you dare to come out, you will be dead." Shen Ningning's face was ashen, and she knelt on the ground, watching helplessly as they left in a bullock cart. The sun shone fiercely on the wound, causing severe pain all over. Grandma Qin, who was locked in the woodshed, called eagerly, "Ningning, stand up slowly and try." Shen Ningning sat motionless on the ground, her coarse clothes covered with dust. Those big, clear, black eyes were full of hesitation. Grandma Qin became more and more anxious and panicked. Finally, Shen Ningning let out a cry of pain, put her hands on the ground, and slowly stood up. Grandma Qin felt distressed. "Ningning, it's all my fault that Grandma is unable to protect you." The little guy staggered to the woodshed. She tried her best to stand up on her little feet and reached into the window to wipe Grandma Qin's tears. "Grandma, don't cry, Ningning doesn't feel any pain at all." After hearing this, Grandma Qin cried even harder and couldn't stop complaining about herself. A few days ago, Shen Ningning was locked up in the woodshed by Aunt Qin. Grandma Qin couldn't bear it and gave the little guy some food. As a result, Aunt Qin found out and immediately locked her into the woodshed to reflect on Shen Ningning's actions. He has been imprisoned until now. Suddenly, Grandma Qin was crying, as if she couldn't breathe. "The little guy is anxious. Grandma." She hurriedly touched the small red mole on the of her right hand, and slipped into the space while Grandma couldn't see it. With ease, he took a bowl and scooped out a ladle of spiritual spring water. "Grandma, drink some water quickly." Shen Ningning put the bowl next to the window and poured all the water into Grandma Qin's mouth through the window. After a while, Grandma Qin's complexion improved. She collapsed on the ground, breathing heavily. "Don't worry, Ningning, Grandma is much better." Shen Ningning breathed a sigh of relief. When she was 2 years old, she accidentally touched a small red mole on her body and came to this wonderland unintentionally. There were endless amounts of rice, noodles, meat, eggs and fresh vegetables, as well as many seeds that Shen Ningning didn't recognize, as well as hundreds of cabinets full of medicinal herbs. What's even more amazing is that the clear spring water inside can make her injuries heal faster. Shen Ningning wiped away her tears with her small hands, stepped on her feet and asked, "Grandma, are you going to live with me in the Wonderland?" "There, Aunt can't bully us." Grandma Qin thought that Shen Ningning was going to take her away, so she quickly shook her head weakly. "Although you were picked up by Grandma, you are not an orphan that no one wants. When Grandma found you, you had a string of silver locks hanging around your neck. Did you hide the string of Ruyi?" Shen Ningning nodded tightly and lifted up her clothes, revealing her white and tender belly. The string of silver locks was what she wanted, so she tied it around her waist with a rope. "Here." Grandma Qin nodded happily. "The 3 characters Shen Ningning are engraved on the back of Ruyi, which is your name. This Ruyi is exquisitely made, and it looks like it belongs to a wealthy family. Your parents must have lost it accidentally. They will definitely come to you, and then you can go home and never have to suffer again." Shen Ningning seemed to understand, but she still put down her clothes and patted her belly gently. "Ningning will protect Ruyi when my parents come to pick me up. I will pick up my grandma too." Grandma Qin smiled with tears in her eyes. Sudden. "Mom. I just said that this little orphan will not kneel down on the spot." Qin Fangmei's sharp voice came from the door. "Aunt Qin and the others are back again." Asterisk. The author's thoughts. 1. This book is purely fictional, please do not make any research. 2. First published by Yunkai Academy, available on QQ Reader. 3. Follow the old rules, hold high the banner of sweet pets, welcome everyone to come and raise your daughter with me. 4. 2 updates per day, 2000 words per update, and will continue to be updated after stabilization. 5. Since the setting of this article is fictitious and prices are inflated during a disaster year, all prices start with 2. If you like it, don't forget to collect the favorable votes. Thank you for your support. End of this chapter. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 2. Chapter 2, the wolf snatched him away, and he was protected by thousands of pets. Not long after we left home, the ox cart broke down. It must have been you, a little bastard, who defeated us. I'm already upset, so let's beat him to death, Uncle Chin shouted impatiently. Hearing Uncle Chin's support, Aunt Chin angrily picked up the bamboo sticks she had thrown away before, walked over and grabbed Shen Ningning's dodging body. Want to run away, Lao Chin? Come here and hold her down. Shen Ningning's face was panicked. Aunt Chin and his wife, regardless of Grandma Chin's plea for mercy, vented all their anger on Shen Ningning. Qin Fangmei stood aside and watched proudly. Mom, she doesn't even listen to you. Beat her hard. She looked ferocious and kept instigating. She just hates Shen Ningning. A little orphan, but she was so fair-skinned and dewy-skinned. Everyone in the village praised her for her beauty. The family obviously keeps a close eye on all the delicious food. How can she be so fair and tender when she is hungry and full? The grandson of the village chief would tease Qin Fangmei every time he saw her, saying that she was like Shen Ningning's maid when they stood together. Shen Ningning's little body was pinned to the ground by Uncle Qin. She couldn't struggle to get away, and she was crying so hard that it was heartbreaking. Auntie, it's not Ningning who broke the ox cart. Of course Aunt Qin didn't listen. She raised the bamboo stick high and was about to pull it down. Suddenly, there was quite a commotion in the village, mixed with frightened screams and tiny sounds. The wolf is coming, run. Wolf, Aunt Qin looked suspicious and instructed Uncle Qin, go out and see what's going on. Domestic dogs in the village howled loudly. The chickens they raised also shrank their necks and stayed motionless in the cage. Uncle Qin just picked up the by the wall and opened the firewood door. Suddenly, a huge black shadow rushed towards him, carrying a fierce smell. It turned out to be a strong black wolf. It knocked Uncle Qin down directly, and as if it was an act of revenge, it opened its mouth and bit the hand that he had just held down Shen Ningning. Ah dash! Uncle Qin's voice was shrill, and he fainted from the pain. She was so frightened that Qin Fangmei and Aunt Qin screamed at the same time. Aunt Qin turned around and ran away, stepping on the wood piled in the corner, climbed up the edge of the wall and fled, not caring about her daughter at all. Several wolves, bearing sharp teeth, walked into the yard from behind the black wolf. Qin Fangmei rolled her eyes in fear, fainted suddenly, and fell directly into the well behind her. These wolves approached Shen Ningning. Ningning, run! Grandma Qin burst into tears. Shen Ningning couldn't run, her small body was weak. The Black Wolf King had already walked up to her, looking down at the little guy with his faint brass-colored wolf eyes. It was so close that Shen Ningning could even see the blood stains left on the corners of its mouth. She closed her eyes tightly and covered her head with her little hands, getting ready to be eaten. Sudden. The Black Wolf King grabbed her by the collar, turned around and ran away. The wolves followed behind it and retreated extremely quickly. Come here, the wolf has taken the child away, Grandma Qin's panicked cry for help echoed in the village. After a while, the villagers dared to approach Qin's house cautiously. The wolves appeared too suddenly. Apart from killing a few poultry, they did not harm anyone except the Qin family. Shen Ningning was led by the wolf and ran into the forest. After half a stick of incense, the Black Wolf King placed her in a cave. The little guy was scared and leaned against the mountain wall, shaking violently. She was always ready to touch the red mole and hide in the wonderland. The wolves sat in front of her, all looking at her. The two wolves standing behind the Black Wolf King howled and whispered to each other, and then bared their teeth at Shen Ningning as if playfully. Listen to the words. Shen Ningning's big eyes were filled with tears. She quickly denied, "Don't eat me. My meat is neither delicious nor tender. It is bitter." The wolves were surprised and looked at each other. This little girl can actually understand their communication. The Black Wolf King stepped forward and growled at Shen Ningning. The little guy covered his mouth and his voice was soft and surprised. "Are you saying you won't eat me just to save me?" The wolves nodded along with the Black Wolf King. The Black Wolf that was standing behind the Black Wolf King just now took the initiative to approach. It hummed twice, but Shen Ningning understood the other person's thoughts. It turns out that the wolves often hear the little guy crying and know that she has been bullied. They regretted very much that they should have picked up Shen Ningning when she was still an infant in the forest. No, they heard Shen Ningning's cry again, couldn't bear it anymore and decided to save her. Shen Ningning asked pitifully, "Then, were it my father and mother who threw me away in the first place?" The wolves shook their heads, expressing their ignorance, and Shen Ningning's eyes darkened. If she can't find her parents, she will have to stay here and live with Aunt Chin and the others. Probably sensing the little guy's thoughts, the Black Wolf King gently bit Shen Ningning's sleeve and invited Ningning to live with them. The wolves became excited and howled excitedly in agreement. Their father is the king of black wolves in the entire forest, and no one dares to mess with them. Besides, this little doubting understands wolf language, so of course he has to stay and play with him to relieve his boredom. Shen Ningning's eyes were bright, as if she was ignited with hope. "Can I bring Grandma here too?" After a brief silence, the Black Wolf King nodded in agreement. The little guy was so happy that she stood up quickly and wanted to run home and bring her grandma. "But the place where I had been beaten before still hurts." Unable to stand still, her little cracked and she sat on the ground again. Black Wolf King sighed, gently sniffed Shen Ningning's wound, and motioned for Shen Ningning to recover from the injury first. Shen Ningning's voice was waxy, and she howled twice like the other wolves, "Thank you, wolf." After she shouted, the Wolf King was stunned. The other wolves immediately gathered around Shen Ningning and licked her hair one by one. Not only was the little guy not afraid, he actually smiled innocently. In her eyes, these wolves are much kinder than her aunt. They are fierce, but they are not unreasonable, and they will not suddenly pick up a stick and hit her like Aunt Chin. At this moment, a black wolf with some white hair on its neck made a gurgling sound in its belly. It howled several times in dissatisfaction, and the other wolves howled in response. Shen Ningning blinked her big eyes and understood. They are hungry. They were in the village just now and there was no big hunting, so they planned to hunt. At this moment, they looked at Shen Ningning. "Ask with your eyes if the little one wants something to eat." Shen Ningning waved her hands quickly, "You don't need to go hunting, I have a lot of food here." After she finished speaking, she immediately touched the red mole, slipped into the space, and disappeared from the eyes of the wolves. The living people disappeared, and the wolves stood up in fright and looked around. Missing. The next second, Shen Ningning appeared at the original place. She held fresh pork and a whole skinned and feathered chicken in her arms. "Eat it," the little guy put it in front of them like a treasure. The wolves, including the Black Wolf King, looked at the little guy in shock. Shen Ningning smiled softly, "I have a fairy land with everything in it." She didn't dare to let others know the secret, but she felt reassured by the wolves. Her little hands grabbed the paw of the Black Wolf King and tried to bring it in, but it was in vain. It seems that she is the only one allowed to enter the fairy land. Shen Ningning pursed her lips, feeling a little frustrated. In this case, Grandma can no longer live with her in the fairy land. The wolves were very happy. This little guy they picked up can not only understand their speech, but can also conjure a lot of food. The Black Wolf King distributes the meat to the wolves. And Shen Ningning decided that since she couldn't enter the fairy land, she would move the things inside out. In just one day, She led the spiritual spring out, and the spiritual spring water emerged from an originally dry spring on the mountain. Shen Ningning also filled the wolf's den with fresh meat and delicious fruits. She soaked in the spiritual spring for a long time. On the third day, the injuries on her body were almost healed, with only shallow marks left. Lang Lang, I'm going down the mountain now to pick up Grandma. Her little face was full of anticipation for a new life. The Black Wolf King immediately lay down and motioned for Shen Ningning to get on its back. They want to send Shen Ningning down the mountain. The wolves were dispatched, and Shen Ningning rode the Black Wolf King back to Shangyun village. To avoid causing panic, the little guy asked them to wait in the forest near the village. She walked back to Qin's house alone. Opening the door, Aunt Qin was drying clothes. She turned around and saw Shen Ningning, as if she had seen a ghost. "You're not dead." The little guy is not afraid of her at all now. She knows that the wolves are nearby and will protect her. Shen Ningning raised her chin and said fiercely, "Where is my grandma? I want to take Grandma away." Aunt Qin looked at her with disdain. She was killed by you." End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. Grandma was killed? You're lying. Shen Ningning panicked for a moment, but quickly stabilized herself. She didn't believe it. Aunt Qin looked at her sideways and laughed. "What's the use of lying to you? The last time the wolf came and snatched you away, she was so scared that you were paralyzed. If you didn't hold on, would you die?" The more she spoke, the more vicious Aunt Qin's tone became. "It's all thanks to you. The wolf took you away but didn't eat you. He must have thought you were unlucky. Shen Ningning, you killed your grandma. How can you still have the nerve to come back?" The little guy's eyes were red when he was told that. He was biting his lip, and he would never cry. She took off her little feet and ran towards the yard. "Grandma, Grandma," Shen Ningning shouted while searching. There was no one in the woodshed, nor in the main house or kitchen. Even Grandma's daily necessities are gone. At this point, Shen Ningning finally burst into tears. Grandma must have thought she was eaten by a wolf, which is why she died sadly. She wiped her tears with her little hands and left the yard whimpering. Looking at her back, Aunt Qin raised her voice and said, "Grandma, who brought up your own life through death, don't live anymore, so that you and your grandson can be reunited." Grandma Chen across the door happened to come out to fetch water and frowned when she heard this. "Aunt Qin, we can't speak too harshly. No matter what, Ning Ning is only 4 years old. What if the child takes her seriously and does something stupid?" Aunt Qin sneered. "Grandma Chen, I heard that your son made a mistake in the border area and will be driven back soon. You can't take care of your own troubles, but you come to worry about other people's affairs. You feel sorry for her. You pick her up, go home and take care of yourself." Grandma Chen was angry and cursed angrily. "Bah, stop talking nonsense. My son and the general guarding the border have not made any mistakes. You don't even look in the mirror and take a look at your wicked appearance, and you dare to make up my son. Got it? You can say anything, but not her son." Grandma Chen was too lazy to talk to this wicked man and walked away with a bucket. Aunt Qin spat, "My husband died early, and I think your son is the same. The whole family is short-lived." Granny Chen caught up with Shen Ningning with a bucket and saw her sitting on the bank of the river outside the village, crying sadly against the cracked river bed. Several black wolves guarded her. Grandma Chen was startled. Just as she was about to approach, she was frightened away by the warning looks of the wolves. The little guy heard the sound and looked back. Grandma Chen. She touched the largest black wolf with her little hand. "Don't worry, Lang Lang, Granny Chen is a good person, she gave me steamed buns a year ago. As soon as he finished speaking, the pack of wolves protecting Shen Ningning slowly retreated nearby. But the eyes staring at Granny Chen were still cold. Here, what's going on, Ningning, do you know them? Looking at Granny Chen's surprised look, Shen Ningning nodded in despair. These are my wolf friends, Granny Chen, this is for you. She stretched out her little hand, and there was a red fruit in her palm. The skin is thin, the meat is rich, and the juice is full. It tastes sweet at first sight. There has been a famine in recent years. There has been little rain, let alone fruit trees, and few crops can survive. Such a juicy fruit is sold by the piece in the city. One piece costs 10 taels, which is the annual expense of an ordinary family. Therefore, Granny Chen was very surprised. Looking at the little guy with his head hanging down, his white and tender face seemed to have turned pale. Grandma Chen took away the red fruit and said, "Ning Ning, don't be sad. Believe me, your grandma is not dead." Shen Ningning suddenly raised her face, with tears still hanging on her face. "Really?" But Aunt said. "Your aunt lied to you. She and your uncle are two beasts. That day you were kidnapped by a wolf, and your grandma was paralyzed with fear. They didn't want to pay for a doctor, so they just carried your grandma to the mountain and wanted her to survive on her own. Destroy yourself. However, I don't know where she threw it. If you go look for it, she must not be dead, your grandma won't let you go." After Granny Chen finished speaking, Shen Ningning's eyes suddenly opened wide, bursting with joy. "Thank you, Granny Chen." The little guy turned around and ran away. "Hey," Granny Chen grabbed her and reluctantly returned the fruit. "Take it for your grandma to eat." I also saw that Shen Ningning was so lonely and helpless, so pitiful. The little guy pushed the red fruit back and said, "I still have a lot of them. Grandma, you can keep them for yourself. I will find grandma and give them to you later." After speaking, she even took out the only two fruits left in the thin cloth pocket and put them in Granny Chen's hands. "Wolf, wolf, let's go into the mountains quickly, grandma is still alive." Shen Ningning was so happy that she grabbed the wolf's fur with her little hands and sat on the black wolf's back easily. The black wolf king was like lightning and flew away with the pack of wolves. Looking at their backs, Grandma Chen was stunned with 3 big fruits in her hand. It turns out that these wolves didn't come to eat people last time, they came to support her. What a pity, why didn't they bite Aunt Chin to death? After entering the mountains and forests are too big. Where was Grandma imprisoned? Seeing Shen Ningning keep making troubles, the Black Wolf King looked back and rubbed her little hand with his head. Signs to the little one not to worry, it will take care of it. I saw the Black Wolf King jumping to the highest position on the cliff. It looked up to the sky and howled, but within a moment, different wolf howls came from the entire forest in response. The whistling summer wind blew through the black wolf fur that it raised when hunting, and also blew over Shen Ningning's rosy little face. She listened carefully to the howls of the wolves and understood their communication. Wolf Wolf actually ordered the wolves in the entire forest to look for Grandma. Shen Ningning hugged the Black Wolf King's head tightly. "Thank you." But after a while, a wolf howl came from the woods to the south. The Black Wolf King's eyes were stern, and he immediately ran in that direction with Shen Ningning on his back. When she found Grandma Chin, she was chained in a big pit and unconscious. "Grandma!" The little guy hurriedly jumped into the pit, only to find that Grandma Chin was hot all over. Shen Ningning traveled to and from space many times. First I fed Grandma a lot of spiritual spring water, and then took out a lot of medicinal materials, but I didn't know which one could save Grandma's life. The Black Wolf King was on top, barking a few words in a low voice. Shen Ningning held up a medicinal plant she took out. "Wang Lang said that this ginseng can be useful." The Black Wolf King nodded. The little guy didn't hesitate immediately, tore off the ginseng whiskers with his hands, stuffed it into Grandma's mouth, and let her swallow it with the spiritual spring water. Ahem, after a moment, Grandma Chin woke up. Ning Ning. Grandma saw it right? Is it really Ning Ning? Grandma, it's me, I wasn't eaten by a wolf, and I came to find you. Grandma Chin looked up and down Shen Ningning's little face and limbs. After confirming that everything was fine, the grandma and grandson hugged each other and cried. Heaven bless you. Grandma Chin burst into tears, and Shen Ningning grabbed her hand. Grandma, I live with wolves now. They are very good to me and promised me to take you to live with them. They helped me find you of. Grandma Chin looked up and saw that the pit was surrounded by black wolves, and they were looking down. She was so frightened that she almost fainted again, but fortunately Shen Ningning hugged her tightly. Grandma Chin calmed down and shook her head with a wry smile. Ningning, Grandma can't leave. She reached out and tugged on the iron chain on her ankle that was thicker than her arm. At the other end of the iron chain, a huge boulder was tied tightly. End of this chapter. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 Picking up a seriously injured boy. At first, when Shen Ningning was snatched away by a wolf, Grandma Chin was half paralyzed by fright and could not walk upright. However, Aunt Chin and his wife were still afraid of her crawling out of the pit and going home. He simply tied her up here without giving her anything to eat or drink. They thought she was a burden and it would be better to die early than to die later. Shen Ningning ran to the iron chain and pulled with her little hands, using all her strength. Her little face turned red from suppressing it. Oops! She did not pull, but fell down on her own. The Black Wolf King was so anxious that he jumped into the hole. It raised Shen Ningning up with its head, and then bit the iron chain with its sharp wolf teeth, trying to help. But no matter how hard you bite, you can't stop biting it. Shen Ningning raised her little face, her eyes full of energy, and she was constantly thinking of ideas. Can the wolf pick up Grandma in its mouth like it picked me up? The Black Wolf King roared. He gave the order, and all the wolves remaining at the entrance of the cave cooperated. They grabbed Grandma Chin's collar, but they couldn't pull her up. With a hard effort, there was a zilla sound, and Grandma Chin's clothes even tore. Grandma's clothes tore first. This is over. You can't hold Grandma's arm in your mouth. The wolves looked at the boulder in front of them and paced back and forth anxiously around the pit. The Black Wolf King howled twice. Yes, I can go to Wonderland to see if there's anything I can do to help. Shen Ningning's eyes lit up and she stepped into the space. This frightened Grandma Chin. The little guy suddenly disappeared. She looked around and called out loudly. Ningning. The Black Wolf King calmly sat aside and looked at Grandma Chin, stretched out his paw and patted her head, meaning, be calm and don't be impatient. Shen Ningning kept looking for weapons in the Hall of Space. There are swords, guns, clubs, and all kinds of weapons in this hall. The little guy usually doesn't go in at all because he doesn't know how to use it. Gunpowder. She walked to a shelf and looked at the paper attached to it. What can gunpowder do? She really doesn't understand and doesn't know many words. Moreover, these gunpowders have a pungent smell. The little guy shook his head silently, turned and walked away. So she could only pick out a sword that looked very sharp. Wolang Glang, is this okay? The Black Wolf King raised a wolf paw, his yellow wolf eyes were calm, with helplessness written on his face. The little guy was stunned for a moment, then he realized what he was doing and smiled shyly. I'm sorry, I forgot, the claws of a wolf cannot hold a sword. She purred to herself twice and gestured to the chain for a long time. The result, of course, is constant cutting. Shen Ningning sat on the ground in frustration. Grandma Chin touched her head and comforted her. Ningning, you don't have to worry about Grandma. As long as you are fine, your aunt is right. Grandma is old and living is a burden. I can't drag you down. Grandma is not a burden, she is Ning Ning's dearest person. Shen Ning Ning stood up and retorted, I'm too weak and I can't stop cutting. Grandma, wait for me. I'll find someone to help. I must rescue you. After suffering so much, Shen Ning Ning will not be easily defeated. The little guy entered the space and took out a lot of red fruits and put them in Grandma Chin's hands. Grandma, don't cry. Eat this red fruit quickly. It was grown in Ning Ning's fairyland. The sword just now was also taken from the fairyland. There is whatever you want in it. I can afford to support Grandma. Okay, okay. Grandma Chin wiped her tears. Shen Ning Ning was in a dilemma. She didn't know who to ask for help to save her grandma. Grandma Chen is the only person in Zhongyun village who is kind to her besides her grandma. But she can't ask Granny Chen for help. After all, Granny Chen is old and not as strong as Wolf. The rest of the village households hate Aunt Chin and do not want to associate with the Chin family, let alone meddle in other people's business. Seeing Shen Ningning's difficulty, the Black Wolf King gave orders to his sons. Ouch! As long as you see people in the mountains and forests recently, you are not allowed to eat them, and you have to tie them up to help them first. The young black wolves nodded frequently and immediately dispersed, each looking for a living person. Shen Ningning planned to take a basket of eggs and go to Shangyun village to see if she could find anyone willing to help. But before reaching the entrance of the village, I saw a tall carriage driving into Shangyun village on the hillside. She recognized it as the car belonging to Du Yuanwei, Aunt Chin's brother-in-law. Shen Ningning's bright eyes suddenly dimmed, and she turned around and left, not intending to go to Shangyun village to find help. Because whenever Du Yuan came out, she would be kicked out, and Aunt Chin could only stay with Du Yuan in the house. Just when Shen Ningning was thinking about who else to ask for help, a wolf howl suddenly came from the forest. The Black Wolf King quickly whined at Shen Ningning. It turns out that the wolves have found helpers. The little guy looked excited, let's go and have a look. She climbed onto the back of the Black Wolf King and ran back to the wolf lair. However, when she saw the helper, his white and tender face was full of surprise. This man is bloody, was he bitten to death by you? A young man covered in blood lay face down in the stream. The blood on his body flowed downwards with the water, making it look particularly dazzling in the sunlight. The wolf that Shen Ningning called Wolf 3 came close to the little guy and jumped up and down, as if asking for credit. They are not the ones who bite people. When the boy was found, he was already lying here in a mess. Wolf San also used his front paws to stomp on the boy's head. Meaning, he still has breath and can help. Hey, he was so seriously injured that he probably won't have the strength to save Grandma for the time being. Let's take a look first. Shen Ningning slid off the Black Wolf King's back, stepped forward and worked with the wolves to turn the boy over. Wow, what a beautiful little brother. The young man is about 10 years old, tall, with a handsome and pale face, thin lips without blood, a pair of thick black eyelashes under slightly slanted cold eyebrows, and long closed eyes. Lifelike. However, his clothes have long been stained with blood, and his original appearance cannot be seen. Shen Ningning took out the ginseng from the space with ease, put it in the boy's mouth, crushed the herbs, and briefly bandaged him. The smooth and handsome body lines are full of stab wounds. The place where Shen Ningning applied the medicine quickly leaked blood again. The injury was really serious. The little guy thought for a moment, if this doesn't work, I'd better send him to soak in the Lingquan. Soaking in the spiritual spring is more conducive to the recovery of his injuries. The spiritual spring that Shen Ningning led is not far from the wolf's lair. Thinking like this, Shen Ningning turned her head and was about to ask the Black Wolf King to come over and help her carry the boy up. Sudden. The young man opened his eyes suddenly, grabbed her wrist, and pressed Shen Ningning's little body under him. Shen Ningning's face turned pale with fright, and she exclaimed softly. The wolves roared and howled, charging towards the boy to tear him apart. "Don't move." The young man's thin eyes were red and fierce, and he said one word at a time, "If you come closer, I will kill her." He was holding a sharp stone piece in his hand, which was pressed against Shen Ningning's snow-white neck. End of this chapter. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 5. Chapter 5 Shen Ningning, don't leave. Mo Lingwei woke up half an hour ago. Knowing that he was surrounded by wolves and the situation was not optimistic, he did not act rashly. After observation, he found this group of wolves and listened to the little girl's words. So, he found the right opportunity and kidnapped her. Shen Ningning's face was flustered as she listened to the boy's heavy breathing. "You can't do this, the injury will be more serious," she said carefully. Mo Lingwei narrowed his eyes. "Who are you?" "My name is Shen Ningning. They are kind-hearted wolves. When we saw you covered in blood, we were planning to save you." After she finished speaking, Mo Lingwei glanced sideways. The wolves bared their teeth fiercely and wanted to rush up and tear him apart. This little guy actually said that wolves are kind and believed that they would save people. Mo Lingwei endured the pain and said in a cold tone, "Tell them to stay away, I want to leave here." Shen Ningning shook her head, "No. You're injured so badly, it's best not to move." Wolf said that there are too many knife wounds on your body, and it will be difficult to heal in less than 10 days and a half. "I don't want to hear no, please find a way, otherwise, you will die with me." Mo Lingwei brought the stone piece closer to him again. Shen Ningning felt the pain on her neck. She groaned and shed 2 tears. The Black Wolf King roared angrily and howled so fiercely that it would frighten any ordinary person. Only the young man's face remained unchanged, his eyes were gloomy. Shen Ningning endured the pain. "I'm confident that you can be cured within 3 days. When you get better, you have to do me a favor. So, I can't let you go. You can't get out of the mountains with your injuries. You need me to heal your injuries, and I need you too." The little guy pretends to be strong, but in fact his little hands are shaking. Mo Lingwei lowered his head and saw shocking scars on her exposed arms. Looking at Shen Ningning's bright eyes again, he gritted his teeth and said, "Are you going to tell me the terms?" Shen Ningning pursed her lips stubbornly and said nothing. He looked like he was trying to put on a fierce look, but was betrayed by the twinkling tears in his eyes. Seeing her like this, Mo Lingwei suddenly stopped his hand, threw away the stones, and sat on the side with his hands on the river beach, his face pale from the pain. The wolves immediately rushed forward and protected Shen Ningning in the middle. Just when the Black Wolf King was about to pounce and bite Mo Lingwei to death, Shen Ningning called out, "Wolf! Come back!" She grabbed the Black Wolf King tightly. "When he gets better, he can help me save Grandma and calm down." Mo Lingwei didn't move after hearing this. The Black Wolf King gave a low growl before giving up. Shen Ningning approached Mo Lingwei. The young man closed his eyes. The little guy saw that the wounds on his body had opened again due to his actions just now. Blood was flowing along his skin, and he just frowned slightly. Shen Ningning quickly wiped him with a clean handkerchief and water from the stream. The young man frowned slightly, opened his eyes and said angrily, "I will do it myself." He snatched the handkerchief away. By the time he finished wiping it, Shen Ningning had asked Lang San to drag out a rag bag from the wolf's den. Opening the cloth bag, there is a dazzling array of rare medicinal materials inside. Ginseng, Ganoderma lucidum, deer antler, snow lotus. Mo Lingwei slowly opened his eyes and saw a flash of surprise in his eyes when he saw so many medicinal materials. However, when I thought about it, she lived with wolves, with mountains at her back. There are all kinds of wild medicinal materials in the mountains. It's just that these rare medicinal materials are worth 100 taels if sold outside. But she wrapped it in rags as if she had picked grass. Under the guidance of the Black Wolf King, Shen Ningning kneaded the medicinal materials that could stop bleeding in her small hands, and then pinched Mo Lingwei's chin. "Open your mouth, ah." Mo Lingwei frowned. "Take it away. Do you want to poison me with so many herbs?" "The ones that are not poisonous," Wolf said. "They are all herbs that can stop bleeding." Shen Ningning was good at talking, but Mo Lingwei just refused to eat. The wolf-san on the side couldn't see it anymore. He raised his paw and pressed it directly on the wound on Mo Lingwei's shoulder. Hiss. He opened his lips in pain, and Shen Ningning took advantage of this opportunity to stuff the medicinal ingredients into his mouth. Mo Lingwei was shocked and angry. "Shen Ningning, you..." Before he finished speaking, the little guy pinched his mouth. "It's a little bitter, that's okay. Swallow it quickly, and the injury will heal faster." Mo Lingwei's dark eyes looked like he wanted to kill someone. He had no strength to struggle. Shen Ningning held his mouth and wouldn't let go, while the wolves watched beside him. In the end, he could only accept his fate. Shen Ningning frowned as she looked at Mo Lingwei in pain. She let go of her little hand and smiled. "This will help you get better soon." Mo Lingwei suppressed his anger and closed his eyes, too lazy to pay attention to her. He adjusted his breath and luck, but there was always a toxin in his body, impacting his internal organs, making him feel as if he was being roasted by a raging fire. The poison has taken hold. The sixth prince sent people to hunt him down. It was not enough to cut him with so many swords, and they also had to apply poison on the blades. "How much do you want him to die?" Mo Lingwei knew that for this kind of poison, ordinary medicinal materials would be useless unless he took the antidote. If he had the life to go back, his life would be worse than death for the sixth prince. Thinking of this, hatred and anger intertwined in my heart. At this moment, Shen Ningning was chatting with the Black Wolf King, attracting Mo Lingwei's attention. Mo Lingwei watched the Black Wolf King raise his eyelids and stare at him, whining from time to time. It is the same as the little guy's barrier-free conversation. It seems that one wolf and one person are talking about him. Mo Lingwei frowned. Can she still communicate with wolves? After Shen Ningning finished talking to the Black Wolf King, she stood up and said, "Let's leave now. If you soak in the spiritual spring for one night, you will definitely feel better in the morning." Take a bath in the spring water. Mo Lingwei was confused. After 2 sticks of incense, he and Shen Ningning rode a wolf to a paradise-like place. Shen Ningning put in good words and asked the Black Wolf King to come forward, and then she persuaded Lang San to give Mo Lingwei a ride. As soon as he reached the spring, he was knocked down by the impatient Lang San. Slumped to the ground, looking at the scenery in front of him, Mo Lingwei fell into a daze for a moment. A large green forest surrounds a clear and transparent spring, and the surrounding wide puddles are filled with glazed blue spring water. The surrounding forests are obviously nourished by spring water and are lush and green. But it has hardly rained in the entire Canyon Kingdom for 3 consecutive years. In addition to reduced crop yields, many rivers have dried up. Mo Lingwei has not seen such a continuously flowing spring water for a long time. Shen Ningning tilted her head, looked at him with a surprised look on her face, and said with a sweet smile, "Okay, you go in and go clubbing. This spring water can nourish your body and help your injuries heal quickly." As soon as she finished speaking, Lang San, who was holding his breath, jumped up, pressed his paws, and pushed Mo Lingwei into the water. "Bye." Shen Ningning originally wanted to sit in the shade next to her. However, Mo Lingwei struggled in the water for a while, and suddenly reached out his hand and grabbed her ankle on the shore. Shen Ningning. Wait, there was a rare panic look on his handsome and pale face, which was completely different from the irritable and cold-hearted person before. The shadow of childhood, when I almost drowned when I was young, swept over me again. "Don't go," he said. "Hello everyone. On this auspicious day, I also bring a new book. I hope you will like the story of the fourth daughter. This book is updated twice a day, and each chapter is 2,000 words. Like every previous book, I have increased the number of words in each chapter, not less. Afterwards, there will be a chance to add more as appropriate. Please ask the treasures to collect a message and praise the 5-star. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 Ning Ning's Little Treasure House, you can have it if you want it. Mo Lingwei couldn't help but tremble slightly. Until, Shen Ningning's delicate and soft little hands held his palm. So you're afraid of water? It doesn't matter. I'll hold you, but you can't sink. The little guy smiled sweetly. The fleshy cheeks bulged out, revealing a cute pear dimple. Mo Lingwei raised his head and looked at the little guy in the sun, who was backlit and wearing rags, but had the most innocent and beautiful smile. Her words miraculously soothed him. It doesn't matter if he's in a scary situation, as long as someone can hold him tightly like this. Mo Lingwei was lying on the edge of the pool. After relaxing his body, he floated on the ice-blue spring water. The sun was shining brightly, and he always held her little hand tightly. The other side. Aunt Qin put on Du Yuan's outer robe. The two of them talked about Shen Ningning, who ran away with the wolves. Du Yuan has a tall, round belly and an inverted triangular look in his eyes, which makes him look sinister. Although Shen Ningning is young, she still saw something that she shouldn't have seen that day. If she tells it, it will affect my official career. Gihong, you can't let her live. Aunt Qin tidied Yuan Du's clothes, then laughed and said in an artificial voice, "Brother-in-law, don't worry. That little orphan regards her grandma as more important than herself. Knowing that her grandma is dead, she will definitely not live alone. I have tried every means to force her to die. Even if she can't die, if I get Mrs. Jean back later, the little orphan will still follow her back home. I will definitely kill her." Du Yuanwei nodded and walked out of the room. By chance, Uncle Qin returned home with it on his back, covered in filth. After seeing Du Yuanwei, Uncle Qin quickly nodded and bowed to say hello. Du Yuanwei did not look sideways or pay any attention to him. He directly boarded the carriage at the entrance of the yard and drove away. "Brother-in-law, walk slowly and say hello to my sister for me," Aunt Qin waved while leaning on the fence. When the carriage was out of sight, Uncle Qin followed Aunt Qin into the house. "Your brother-in-law is here again, do you have anything?" he asked eagerly. Aunt Qin rolled her eyes at him and sat in front of the mirror to comb her hair. "You can find out by yourself in the kitchen." Uncle Qin hurried out and came back after a while. His voice was full of dissatisfaction. "Why are you only given half a cylinder of rice? I usually give you 2 or 3 cylinders. Pa," Aunt Qin slapped the comb on the table. She turned around and scolded, "You cunning idiot, there is a shortage of food everywhere, and there is no harvest in the fields. We all rely on the government to provide food and grass for disaster relief. My brother-in-law can give us half a tank of rice, which is already good. You still think it's too little? It's too little. If you have the ability, go do it yourself. Don't tell me that you couldn't find a job before. Now that your hand has been bitten off by a wolf, who would want to be a useless person?" Uncle Qin rubbed his neck and shouted with a red face, "Wangihong, what are you talking about? I listened to you and threw my mother up the mountain. I am in a hurry for food, isn't it also so that our whole family can have enough to eat?" Seeing that he was really angry, Aunt Qin rolled her eyes and softened her tone. She turned back and said with a smile, Okay, I know you are doing it for our family's good. But you have to be considerate, right? There is a drought now, so our family relies on my brother-in-law for relief. Besides, if we fell into a well and broke our heads, don't we have to rely on my brother-in-law to pay for the medical treatment?" Uncle Chin suddenly stopped and lost his temper. He sat on the stool dejectedly. If he hadn't been incompetent, Aunt Chin wouldn't have the final say in the family. Asterisk. 3 days have passed. Relying on Shen Ningning's spiritual spring water, Amo Lingwei soaked in the water for almost 4 hours every day, and his injuries healed faster than he imagined. When he meditated and adjusted his breath again, he felt that the burning sensation in his body that was stimulated by toxins and blood vessels had disappeared. His poison was actually dissolved by the spring water. Amo Lingwei lowered his head again and looked at the wounds on his arms that had been turned outwards. They were all healed one by one, leaving only bright red scars. As for these scars, Shen Ningning said that they would disappear in a short time. Looking at Shen Ningning's little figure busy boiling eggs in the distance, Amo Ling's thin and long eyes were heavy and heavy. "Where is she?" Shen Ningning held 2 eggs and walked up to Amo Lingwei. "Here. Eat it while it's hot," Wolf said. "Your skin injuries will heal quickly, and your internal injuries need to be taken good care of. Eat the eggs and you'll heal quickly," the little guy smiled sweetly. She gave one to Amo Lingwei, took one for herself, and sat down next to him. While Amo Lingwei was still peeling off the egg shells, he turned around and saw Shen Ningning taking a bite of the egg with the shell intact. "Amo Lingwei." "Shen Ningning," he scolded. The little guy raised his watery eyes and looked at him innocently, with egg yolk still on his lips. "What's the matter?" she asked vaguely. "Why do you eat the eggshells together? Can't you eat eggshells? When I was at home, my aunt always divided them like this. My sister eats the yolks, they eat the whites, and I eat the eggshells." Amo Lingwei took a cold and calm breath, looking at the little guy with his dark eyes. His slender fingers peeled off the eggshell in 3 to 5 strokes. "Eat this from me." Amo Lingwei handed the intact white tender egg to the little guy. Shen Ningning took it silently, hesitating for a long time before making a decision. Amo Lingwei said in a deep voice, "Eat." She just opened her mouth and put the whole thing into her mouth, her cheeks bulging like a little hamster. Amo Ling smiled angrily, "Chew it." "Well." The little guy chewed obediently. Amo Lingwei peeled off the shells of the remaining eggs and put them in her palm again. "You have to remember to peel the eggshells before eating them," he warned. "Thank you Guo Guo. It's my brother." "Pot pot." Amo Lingwei. "That's all, what does he care about with a 4-year-old child?" Shen Ningning smiled brightly and cutely at him. When the Black Wolf King and the wolves saw it, they all let out a disdainful hum from their nostrils. Amo Lingwei realized that he was recovering well. He stood up, "Let's go, take me to save your grandma." Shen Ningning was extremely happy. "Brother, is your injury okay?" Amo Lingwei lowered his cold eyes with an unruly expression. He twisted his cuffs and said, "My body is still in a bad shape, but my martial arts skills are intact. It should be more than enough to save people." When Shen Ningning and the wolf pack brought Amo Lingwei to the big pit where grandma was imprisoned, Amo Lingwei was startled. He thought her grandma was being detained by others. "Be prepared for a big fight." Unexpectedly, the little guy actually asked him to help him cut off the iron chain. Grandma Chin in the pit looked weak and pale. There was a bucket of water and a few fruit cores beside her. "Ningning." Grandma Chin said weakly. "Grandma, I found a powerful brother to save you." After the little guy finished speaking, he looked at Amo Lingwei with bright eyes and full of expectation. Amo Lingwei said in a deep voice, "Without a knife or a sword, how can I save him?" "Yes." All, Shen Ningning clapped her little hands. The Black Wolf King howled, and 4 wolves sprang out from the nearby grass. Hold respectively, a sword, a knife, a spear, and a dagger. Each weapon was sharpened. Amo Lingwei waved it in his hand a few times, feeling that each weapon was as sharp as iron. He became even more curious about Shen Ningning. It is not surprising that herbs and food can be found in the mountains. But so many weapons. Amo Lingwei calmed down, jumped down into the pit, and pointed the long knife at the iron chain that locked Grandma Qin's ankle. Kang! A violent crisp sound sounded the moment he chopped it down. The blade exploded and flew, and Amo Lingwei was shocked. One of the broken blades flew towards Shen Ningning next to her. End of this chapter. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. Let's go and exchange some Ganodermal lucidum for some money. The Black Wolf King roared angrily and jumped into the pit to protect Shen Ningning. Almost at the same moment, Amo Lingwei suddenly stretched out his hand and grasped the blade with one fist. Blood dripped down his palms. Shen Ningning hurriedly ran out from behind the Black Wolf King. "Brother, you are injured." Amo Lingwei didn't care. He threw the blade away. "It's okay." Shen Ningning turned her eyes and saw that the iron chain tied between Grandma's ankle and the boulder was finally broken. Grandma is finally saved. Grandparents and grandson hugged each other and cried. However, Grandma Qin tried several times but could not stand up. Shen Ningning thought she was hungry, so she quickly peeled the boiled eggs she brought and handed them to Grandma Qin's lips. "Grandma, eat it, you will have strength after eating it." Grandma Qin smiled bitterly and shook her head. "Ningning, Grandma is half paralyzed. I'm afraid she won't be able to walk." Shen Ningning's face suddenly became sad. The Black Wolf King stepped forward, cupped her little hand, and bared his teeth at Amo Lingwei. "Lang Lang, you mean that my brother can help?" "Yes, brother, can you help me carry Grandma up?" Amo Lingwei looked at the little guy with dark eyes. His nature is to never mind his own business. However, now that he is here, he does not want to owe anyone any favors. So Amo Lingwei bent down and struggled to lift Grandma Qin on his shoulders. Grandma Qin was unable to feel half of her body, let alone have any strength. The Black Wolf King came from behind and pushed his head against Grandma Qin's body. The wolf by the pit grabbed Grandma Qin's left and right sleeves respectively, and with the help of everyone, he finally pulled Grandma up. The Black Wolf King is the strongest and tallest, and he carries Grandma Qin back to the cave. After returning, Grandma Qin lay on the haystack, weak and drowsy. Shen Ningning was a little worried. Should I also let Grandma take a dip in the spiritual spring? Amo Lingwei leaned against the mountain wall, closed his eyes and said, "She is injured in her meridians and internal organs. The most important thing right now is that you have to find a doctor for her." "Langzhong." Shen Ningning looked troubled. "Then we have to go down the mountain and enter the city." "But she has never been to the city, how should she find it?" Sudden. There was a bang behind her. Shen Ningning quickly turned around and saw Amo Lingwei lying on the ground. "Brother," the little guy ran over and touched Amo Lingwei's forehead with his hand. "It's piping hot." His eyebrows were furrowed and his face was cold and pale. The Black Wolf King sniffed beside him and howled twice. It smelled a strong smell of blood. Shen Ningning immediately asked the Black Wolf King to help turn Amo Lingwei over. After untying his clothes, I discovered that the injury on his back was slightly cracked. Grandma Qin said weakly, "Ningning, why is he injured so seriously?" Shen Ningning's face was full of worry. She bit her lower lip and stood up after a while. "I want to go to the city to find a doctor. Just soaking in Lingquan may not be enough. Besides, what my brother said is right, Grandma still needs a doctor who knows medical skills to see how to cure paralysis." The Black Wolf King suddenly howled, and all the wolves stood up. They will accompany Shen Ningning into the city and protect her at all times. However, the little guy touched the ear of the Black Wolf King. "No, Wolf, if everyone goes, It will make people scared. Just send me to the bottom of the mountain. I will definitely come back before dark. The Black Wolf King's brass wolf eyes were full of worry. The little guy made up his mind. She knows that when you hire a doctor, you need money. She doesn't have any silver, but she knows how to exchange things for silver. So, the little guy went into the space and brought out a lot of purple Ganoderma lucidum stained with dew. She put it into a rag bag and carried it on her back. She also filled a water bag with a pot of spiritual spring water and hung it around her waist. Everything is ready. The Black Wolf King accompanies her out of the wolf den and down the mountain. Grandma Chin couldn't stop exhorting, "Ning Ning, be careful in everything." When they reached the foot of the mountain, Shen Ning Ning refused to let the Black Wolf King see him off again. "Lang Lang, Grandma and brother are injured, please help me take care of them," the little guy said softly. Having said that, she walked onto the road alone with her little feet, facing the scorching sun. The dark yellow wolf eyes of the Black Wolf King always followed her figure until they could no longer be seen. Shen Ning Ning is very smart, she knows how to take the high road. Because you can find the direction into the city by following the ruts. She brought 2 red fruits to fill her stomach. Now she was holding a big fruit in her little hands, her mouth full of sweet juice, and her steps became brisk. At this time, Aunt Chin carried a bucket of rotten rice and went to the pit. She can't let that old Grandma Chin really die. After all, we still have to use Grandma Chin to lure Shen Ning Ning back. However, Aunt Chin was shocked when she saw the empty potholes. Where are the people? The iron chain was cut off by something, and there were broken blades on the ground. Not only that, there was an overturned bucket with fruit cores and eggshells scattered around it. Aunt Chin picked up a piece of eggshell and frowned at it. After a while, I figured out what was going on. She cursed, "Damn little orphan, he's so blessed and so lucky that he's not dead yet. He gave so much food to the old man, couldn't he have stolen it?" Suddenly, Aunt Chin saw drops of blood on the ground and looked forward along the blood stains, only to see the blood drops disappear into a patch of grass. She rolled her eyes viciously. There is a way to force Shen Ning Ning to death. Over there, the little guy walked for nearly half an hour. The surroundings were still surrounded by mountains and forests. The further away from Langshan Mountain, the more she found that the grass and trees were withered and yellow, and there was no greenness in summer at all. Shen Ning Ning wiped the sweat from her forehead and prepared to find a shady place under a big tree to rest. The shoes she was wearing had a hole in them, and her thumb was exposed playfully. Just as she was approaching the big tree, she heard weak gasps coming from behind. The little guy looked around. "I saw an old man with white hair sitting behind the big tree. He was wearing decent clothes, but there were 2 holes 1 inch below his exposed knees, and the wounds were surrounded by black and blue." The little guy was surprised. "Grandpa, you were bitten by a snake." This injury was not unfamiliar to her. When she was 3 years old, Qin Fang Mei once caught a poisonous snake and put it on her bed. The little guy was bitten, but his grandma sucked out the poisonous blood and soaked in the spiritual spring to save his life. The old man raised his head, his eyes almost blurry. He could only vaguely look at the little man who suddenly appeared in front of him, but he could not see his face clearly. "Hey, yes, my servant has already driven the carriage to look for help." Shen Ning Ning immediately walked up to him. "I just came here. There are no medical centers within 10 miles. If you are bitten by a snake, you can't drag it away, or you will die." After she finished speaking, she lowered her head and squeezed the area bitten by the snake with her small hands. Black blood slowly flowed out. After squeezing for a while, Shen Ning Ning opened her small mouth again, sucked out the remaining black blood in one mouthful, and spit it out. The old man was stunned for a moment. A girl he had never met before actually risked her life to help him. Finally, Shen Ning Ning took off the water bag and rinsed her mouth with spiritual spring water. Then he brought out the spiritual spring and poured it all over the old man's injury. Okay, this can suppress the toxin, Grandpa, and you will be treated in time when you are taken to the hospital. The old man couldn't see her face clearly, so he asked, "Little girl, what's your name?" The cute people in the group named Ning Ning and Prince Mo the morning couple. It sounds really good. Dear friends, please give me lots of votes and positive comments today. I will update early in the future. End of this chapter. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Let's get 400 tails of flowers first. Shen Ningning did not listen to him attentively. Because, she was thinking whether to give the remaining red fruits to the grandfather. Hong fruit grows in fairyland and is watered by spiritual springs. Can strengthen the body. The little guy thought about it and took the initiative to put the red fruit in his hand. Grandpa, I'll leave this for you, eat it if you feel uncomfortable. I have to leave, I can't stay with you. She has to go on her way, and her grandma and brother are waiting for her. Shen Ningning walked away with her little feet. The old man tried hard to see her appearance clearly, but the blur in front of his eyes made him unable to see anything. Shen Ningning walked for nearly an hour, and gradually she could see pedestrians. She was overjoyed and quickly quickened her pace. The tall and wide gate of the capital city appeared not far away. She walked over obediently, followed the bustling crowd, and lined up to enter the city. When Shen Ningning looked around, she found that there were many people in ragged clothes and sallow faces not far from the city gate. Some of them were lying down and some were sitting. Some were motionless, with flies flying around their bodies, and the stench was overwhelming. They all have thin cheeks and sunken cheeks, and their eyes are dull. Shen Ningning was stunned. This should be the refugee that Grandma mentioned, right? Suddenly, a luxurious carriage drove from outside. Dingle bell, the bells on the four corners of the car eaves jingled. The group of refugees who looked like dead people started to move like crazy. The nobleman riding in the carriage threw a few date cakes out of the carriage window. They fell to the ground and were stained with dirt. The refugees ignored them and swarmed over them. As soon as they catch something to eat, they stuff it into their mouths immediately, and some people even fight over it just to get a bite of it. A group of officers and soldiers came out angrily to stop them and beat them with sticks. In order to resist, the refugees made a lot of noise. The scene suddenly became extremely chaotic. Shen Ningning was frightened, hugged her small cloth bag tightly, and ran towards the city in the chaos. Compared to the chaos outside the city is relatively peaceful, but beggars can be seen everywhere huddled under the walls. There was a hawker pushing a water cart, accompanied by 6 guards, shouting, "A bucket of clean water, 10 taels." The beggars stared eagerly, but they did not dare to step forward to grab it. 12 taels. Shen Ningning counted with her little fingers. She remembered that Aunt Chin said that a tank of rice at her house would cost 20 taels if bought outside. 12 buckets of water can only be used for 3 days. She looked at the cloth shop where the shoes were made. A pair of better shoes costs 3 taels, and those beautiful shiny silks are priced at 50 taels. Shen Ningning retreated in embarrassment. She looked down at her shoes with protruding toes, and decided to go to the medicine shop first to see how much money she could exchange for the medicinal materials. Finally, I found a shop with the word medicine floating on it. There were many well-dressed maids and servants in the shop, queuing up to get medicine. The guys treat them with respect. When it was Shen Ningning's turn, the guy just glanced at her. He waved his hand to drive her away. "Little beggar, go away, there is nothing to eat here for you." Shen Ningning was pushed several times by him and immediately hugged the pillar on the side. "I'm not here to beg for food, I sell medicinal materials." The guy paused and looked at her again, his eyes full of ridicule. "You? What kind of medicinal materials are you selling?" Make sure you agree in advance that we will not accept anything from unknown sources. Besides, if the quality is not good, we at Huishuntang will not accept it. Shen Ningning opened the rag bag and carefully took out the purple Ganoderma lucidum. Do you accept this? The guy's jaw almost dropped to the ground. His eyes widened and he looked at the dew-stained purple Lingzi in the little guy's hand. It is about the size of a palm and is in excellent condition. In this drought year, one may not grow even in 50 years. You, wait, the waiter began to stutter, I'll ask the shopkeeper. After saying that, he took the purple Ganoderma and entered the inner hall. Soon there was a startled cry from someone inside. After a while, the tall and thin shopkeeper came out. When the waiter pointed, he saw Shen Ningning sitting obediently on the stool. The little guy was looking around the drugstore with curious eyes, holding the rag bag tightly in his arms. Little baby, does this purple Ganoderma belong to you? The shopkeeper walked over and asked with a smile. Shen Ningning nodded, do you want it? But the shopkeeper said, don't worry, let's go into the inner hall and have a good chat. Shen Ningning hesitated for a moment, then jumped off the stool and followed him with her little feet. After entering the inner hall, the shopkeeper offered a cup of tea, but Shen Ningning refused to drink it. Grandpa shopkeeper, do you want it? She asked urgently. If you definitely want it, as long as the price is right, but I have to ask you first, where did you get this purple Ganoderma? A good medicinal material with a similar appearance cannot be wild. I grew it myself, Shen Ningning said. The shopkeeper was shocked. Most of these drug dealers have their own medicine gardens. But in this drought year, the capital has only received 2 rains this year, which is not enough for the growth of Ganoderma lucidum. Where did this girl get one? The shopkeeper narrowed his eyes. Shen Ningning was a little uneasy. Grandpa shopkeeper, if you don't want it, I'll ask someone else. Sorry to bother you. She picked up the purple Ganoderma on the table and wanted to leave. Wait a minute, the shopkeeper held her little hand and said with a smile, yes, why don't you want it? I'll give you 82 pieces of purple Ganoderma lucidum, what do you think? Actually, according to the market price, purple Ganoderma lucidum is sold by the pound. 100 taels per pound is not an exaggeration. But he just wanted to test whether this little guy knew how to do it. Shen Ningning thought for a while. 80 taels, you can buy a lot of things. She nodded readily, sell. 5 sticks, a total of 400 taels. The shopkeeper couldn't sit still anymore and suddenly stood up, 5. Shen Ningning opened the rag bag, and there were 4 purple Ganoderma lucidum of the same quality inside. The shopkeeper could barely stand. This little girl is a wealthy merchant of medicinal materials. At such a young age, I just took out 5 purple Ganoderma lucidum sticks. You. The shopkeeper's lips were trembling, and he didn't know what to say. Shen Ningning blinked her crystal eyes and asked clearly, Grandpa shopkeeper, what is the most expensive here? I will plant it when I go back and bring it to you. Can you order medicine just like ordering food, with everything you need? The shopkeeper said, if you have ginseng and fleece flower root, I can collect them too. Shen Ningning nodded slightly and wrote it down. After a while, the clerk came in with a banknote of 400 taels. The little guy has only seen silver, not this thing. She hesitated, can I spend this? I have to go shopping. The shopkeeper said with a smile, of course, if it's inconvenient for you, I can exchange it for you with a bag of silver. It's just very heavy, so you have to take it? Shen Ningning said humbly, money is more convenient. After half a stick of incense, she took the money and left the drugstore. Shen Ningning did not forget that she was looking for the doctor, but before that, she had to buy something and take it back with her. The little guy went straight to the cloth store he just passed by. With the heavy amount of money on her back, she walked forward with confidence. Entering the cloth shop, she was driven away before the shopkeeper could urge her. The little guy has already said softly, "I want to buy this dress." She stretched out her little hand and pointed at a set of men's robes hanging on the wall. The price was clearly marked, 80 taels. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 9. Chapter 9, Having money means having confidence. The clerks and customers in the store all glanced at the little guy. They all looked at her with ridicule. Because Shen Ningning was wearing shabby clothes and her shoes had a hole in them. Even though her face is fair and her appearance is watery. But everyone was used to seeing refugees and regarded her as a beggar. The shopkeeper frowned. Where did the little kid come from to cause trouble? If you don't leave, I will arrest you and report you to the official. Shen Ningning angrily took out the small bag of silver she had already prepared from her sleeve, and threw it on the counter with a hiss. I told you, I want to buy clothes. The shopkeeper was dubious, opened the bag, and when he saw the white silver coins, he suddenly turned into a smile. It turns out that the young lady really wants to buy some clothes. I'm sorry for my incompetence. He called to his assistant to take off the clothes and wrap them up for Shen Ningning. In addition to clothes, Shen Ningning also bought 2 items for her grandma, and also bought her and her shoes. It cost a total of 120 taels. The package of clothes was not light, so she left the cloth store with it in her arms, walked to the corner, and put the clothes in the fairyland when no one was paying attention. Then the little guy went straight to the stable. In times of disaster, many families sell their horses to raise money. Shen Ningning was walking around the stable. The shopkeeper in charge came over with a smile on his face and said, "Little girl, are you lost with your parents?" Shen Ningning raised her watery black eyes and looked at him. "I want to buy a carriage." Because, she already understands that silver is very important. Although she has a fairyland, she can't change silver in the fairyland. But she can take the things and exchange them for silver. After buying a carriage, I can take grandma around the city. If you come back to sell medicinal materials, you don't have to walk all the time, it's so hard. The shopkeeper was surprised. This is the first time I have seen such a big-mouthed little person. He laughed. A carriage costs 200 taels of silver. You have to think clearly, do you have that much? Shen Ningning nodded, I have it. You pick a strong horse for me and pull the carriage to the door, and I will give you money. The shopkeeper frowned. Although he was a little skeptical, he still did as he was told. When the carriage was ready, the little guy handed him the prepared wallet. She had already taken out the remaining 80 taels in advance. Shen Ningning didn't know how to drive a carriage, so she rented a coachman from the stable. You have to pay him 5 taels for the round trip. Finally, Shen Ningning took a carriage and returned to the Huishun Hall, the previous medicine shop. Grandpa shopkeeper, she leaned against the car window and looked at the people in the pharmacy with a smile. Call a doctor to come with me. The shopkeeper hurriedly came out. Looking at the tall horse, the little guy's eyes were even brighter than before. Having money really means you have confidence. Spending money is really generous. Little baby, if you don't mind, I'll go with you. All the doctors in the Huishun Hall are here to treat you. I, the shopkeeper, am also a doctor, the shopkeeper said. He was finally able to take the opportunity to figure out what this little girl was like. Shen Ningning tilted her head. Then how much medical fee should I give you? I gave her less money to buy purple Ganoderma lucidum, so the shopkeeper smiled humbly. It's not much, just 10 taels for a round trip, not counting the cost of medicine. Do you think it's feasible? Shen Ningning thought for a moment and nodded. Get in the car. There are 65 taels left. She originally thought that there wouldn't be much money left. So, before Shen Ningning left the capital, she returned to the cloth shop and bought herself a set of clothes. Spent 30 taels. Then I thought about it and bought some more pots and pans, which cost 15 taels. In the end, there were only 20 taels left, but she was satisfied. On the carriage, I learned that Shen Ningning spent a lot of money to buy things. The medicine shop owner smiled and said, "Little baby, why don't you buy water and food? With that much money, you can live a good life for a while." Shen Ningning said without hesitation, "No need." The medicine shop owner wanted to ask again, but the little man cleverly closed his eyes and looked like he was going to sleep. It was not easy for him to ask further questions. By the time we entered the mountain road, the sun was already setting. Shen Ningning opened her eyes again and gave directions to the driver. The carriage she bought was wide and strong. To enter Langshan, she had to pass through Shangyun village. When the carriage was past the village entrance, Uncle Qin and a group of villagers who were loosening soil in the fields showed envious eyes. "Which wealthy family is coming to our village again? Looking in this direction, it doesn't look like you are entering our village. When it comes to wealth, I've only seen him riding in a carriage once, and that was Lao Qin's brother-in-law. Do you think so, Lao Qin?" Uncle Qin looked livid, lowered his head, wiped his sweat with a rough towel, and left with his on the pretext of rest. The carriage stopped at the foot of Wolf Mountain. Ouch! Shen Ningning's face lit up when she heard the familiar call. The wolves and the others were indeed waiting for her. The coachman and shopkeeper turned pale with fright. There are wolves. Could this be the legendary Wolf Mountain where wild wolves gather together? Shen Ningning smiled sweetly, "Don't be afraid, they don't hurt anyone." Speaking, she jumped out of the carriage. The driver had already excused himself to the place, turned around and ran away. The shopkeeper's legs and feet are weak. As soon as she got off the carriage, Shen Ningning found a pale and cold figure standing in the woods looking at her. "Brother," Shen Ningning ran away with her little feet. Amo Lingwei was holding on to his sick body, his thin eyes were blurred, but he still looked strong. After he woke up, he heard Grandma Qin say that Shen Ningning went to the city alone, and he thought she was fooling around. She has never left this mountain. With the current situation in the city, wouldn't she be eaten by those crazy refugees? Fortunately, when Shen Ningning came back, he breathed a sigh of relief. Amo Lingwei stared at the medicine shop owner behind her. "Who is he?" "It's the doctor I invited back to treat you and Grandma." "Grandpa, let's go into the mountains now," Shen Ningning said with a smile, but the medicine shop owner didn't dare to move a step. He looked at the wolves pacing around, circling back and forth, and was so frightened that he wanted to scream but could not make a sound. Amo Lingwei's eyes were scarier than those of wolves, like blades. He looked at the shopkeeper for a moment and said coldly, "If you let him go into the mountain, you have to blindfold him." Shen Ningning was puzzled. But Amo Lingwei persisted and even took the initiative to tear off a piece of clothing and throw it to the shopkeeper. "Put it on, otherwise, you won't be able to go back today," he warned coldly. The medicine shop owner was so frightened that he hurriedly obeyed. "I'll wear it, I'll wear it. Don't let the wolves eat me." If I had known earlier, he would not have made the strip. I wanted to see what kind of family could grow purple Ganoderma lucidum. Who would have thought, it's a pack of wolves. Amo Lingwei and Shen Ningning walked in front. The Black Wolf King followed Shen Ningning closely, rubbing her hand with his head and licking her again. The little guy smiled happily. "Shen Ningning, you have a mountain at your back, with spring water and food. Don't let unfamiliar people control your position." Amo Lingwei lowered his voice and said coldly. He knows the dangers of the human heart and knows that having so many resources would not be a good thing for a 4-year-old child. When someone with ulterior motives breaks in, the wolves may not be able to protect her. Think of this. Amo Lingwei was suddenly stunned. Strange, Why has he become more and more concerned about her recently? Their figures gradually disappeared deep into the woods. Uncle Chin, who was hiding far away, came out with surprise in his eyes. He hurried home and told Aunt Chin everything he saw. Aunt Chin laughed. Why did that little orphan suddenly dare to challenge me? It turns out that there are wolves backing him. But so what, they are just a bunch of beasts. Let's see if I don't kill the wolves together. Uncle Chin hesitated, but, there is a strange young man following her. They are probably desperate refugees, so there is nothing to fear. This time, we must let this cheap girl Shen Ningning know how powerful she is. Aunt Chin smiled evilly and was full of confidence. Congratulations to those who have finished the college entrance examination. You can finally start to enjoy your wonderful vacation. Collect and vote and comment and check in, and if you stick to this nutrition package every day, Ning Ning will be fat and healthy. Having said that, I updated very early today, ####. End of this chapter. Thrown into the wolf's den. Zaizai holds space in his hands to survive the disaster year. Author, White Peach Sweet Porridge. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. Something happened. The other party wants 200 taels. In the woods. Shen Ningning smiled innocently, with light dimples and bright eyes. She stood in the sunset and looked at Mo Lingwei. Brother, I remember everything you just said. After saying that, she took the initiative to hug the Black Wolf King's neck, turned over and climbed onto him. The Black Wolf King and the little guy ran and jumped back and forth, making Shen Ningning giggle. The little guy is in a good mood. Perhaps it's because she has found a way of survival that suits her, so she is full of hope for the future. Mo Lingwei couldn't help but pursed his thin lips and smiled lightly, then quickly stopped. The poor drugstore owner followed them shivering. He couldn't see and didn't know the direction. Sometimes when he went astray, Lang San would him with his head. The shopkeeper was so frightened that he screamed all the way. After entering the wolf's den, the shopkeeper was allowed to take off the veil. He felt Grandma Chin's pulse first, and then Mo Lingwei's pulse. During this period, the shopkeeper felt uneasy. This whole cave of old, weak, sick, and disabled. Can't afford to offend anyone. Looking at the entrance and inside of the cave, there are no fewer than 20 wolves surrounding it. The shopkeeper knows that Langshan is famous for its large number of wolves. It is estimated that there are more places that he cannot see. After diagnosing the pulse, you will probably know the symptoms. The shopkeeper began to give Grandma Chin acupuncture. There is nothing serious about the old man. Qi and blood are blocked. The serious problem is that it has been delayed for a long time. I need acupuncture every day and I have to take good care of myself for a month. Shen Ningning immediately sat next to the shopkeeper and studied seriously. The shopkeeper applied needles on Grandma Chin's forehead, arms, and belly respectively. At the end of the first pass, Grandma Chin coughed up a lot of congestion. At the beginning of the second time, Shen Ningning took the initiative to ask for the acupuncture. She just saw it clearly and knew what to do. So, under the watchful eye of the shopkeeper, the little guy personally performed acupuncture on his grandma. The shopkeeper was surprised and nodded repeatedly. The talent is commendable, there is nothing wrong with it. It's his turn to treat Mo Lingwei again. The main reason is that he did not recover well after being injured. The shopkeeper looked around. The cave is dank and damp, which is not conducive to recovery from internal and external injuries. He wrote a prescription for Shen Ningning. You have to go back to the drugstore to grab these medicines. Shen Ningning glanced at it and didn't know the characters, but she remembered these font outlines in Wonderland. The little guy said cheerfully, "You don't have to worry about this, I have a solution." The shopkeeper smiled sarcastically. Now the shopkeeper will believe whatever she says. Such a capable little girl, hiding in the mountains like an expert. In the end, the shopkeeper was sent away by the wolves blindfolded just as he had come. Shen Ningning made an agreement with him to ask the shopkeeper to pick her up at the foot of Langshan Mountain in 3 days, and she would get the medicinal materials to sell. Grandma Qin had tears in her eyes. Ningning is really a lucky star. She can not only save others, but also have the ability to take care of herself. Grandma can finally feel relieved, she said. Shen Ningning was extremely happy to be praised as a lucky star for the first time. She lay in Grandma Qin's arms, acting coquettishly as she did when she was a child. Grandma Ningning said that she will always support you. Mo Lingjian's high fever had not subsided, so he stood in the forest for half an hour just now to find Shen Ningning. So now, he was lying on the dry haystack, closing his eyes and frowning. Shen Ningning walked over and put the soft clothes next to him. Mo Lingwei opened his eyes quietly. The little guy said, "Brother, these are the new clothes I bought for you. When you get better, you can wear them home." Hearing this, Mo Lingwei smiled for no reason. His tone was incomprehensible. Go home. Since his mother passed away, where does he still have a home? The dull headache came over him, and he fell into a drowsy sleep. Shen Ningning took out a lot of skinned and feathered ducks and chickens from the space, about 50 in total, and the little guy was tired. She generously gave it to the Black Wolf King. "Wolanglang, thank you for your hard work today. Let's share these with you." The Black Wolf King licked the palm of her hand, and the little guy smiled sweetly. "You're welcome." The wolves howled even more happily. Grandma Qin also took a rest after eating. Night falls. Taking advantage of this time, Shen Ningning slipped into the fairyland. She walked to the medicine hall, checked the medicines prescribed by the shopkeeper, and took the medicines one by one. The little guy followed the medicine cabinet and walked to the back of the medicine hall. Only then did I see that there was a locked door behind the main hall. "Huh, what is this place? Why haven't you discovered it before?" she blinked curiously. Shen Ningning stepped forward and pushed twice, but it couldn't be opened. "I don't know what the lock is made of, but it emits a faint blue light." She stood on tiptoe and looked through the gap in the middle of the door. What I saw inside seemed to be a field illuminated by blue sky and white clouds. But the fields were bare and nothing was planted. Shen Ningning was a little curious. Does it mean that this door to fairyland needs certain conditions to be opened? Leaving the fairyland, Shen Ningning was not sleepy, with bright eyes, sitting next to the Black Wolf King, eating fruit and enjoying the night breeze. Going to the city during the day and buying a lot of things with money made her realize the importance of money. In the future, if she has more money, will she be able to find her parents? Shen Ningning thought about it while scratching her white and tender arms with her little hands. The Black Wolf King used his claws several times to push her hand away. But the little guy felt itchy and didn't notice it at all. Until, the Black Wolf King howled in dissatisfaction. Shen Ningning just came back to her senses. "Huh, Wolf, why are you unhappy?" The Black Wolf King roared twice. Shen Ningning looked down at her arms. That's when I discovered that there were actually several little red spots. No wonder she feels itchy. She was busy with her brother and grandma these 2 days and forgot to take a dip in the Lingquan. However, the little guy is not worried. "It's okay. I also had these little red spots when I was thrown to the cowshed to sleep. It was because it was too humid. I'll be out in the sun every day and it'll be fine." Shen Ningning smiled sweetly and optimistically. The Black Wolf King has dark eyes. It knew that the boy's condition recurred because he lived in a damp cave. Shen Ningning, who was younger, slept with them on the haystack. The Black Wolf King felt that it had to find a solution. The night is already dark. Shen Ningning fell asleep on the Black Wolf King's body. However, in Zhongyun village, Granny Chen could not sleep. She took the letter from the border and read it over and over again under the light, shedding tears. The letter was written by her son. Her son said that he had done something wrong on the border and offended noble people. Now we need to use money to smoothen the relationship and find ways. Otherwise, you will go to jail and be sent back to Beijing to face the crime. Grandma Chen rummaged through her family's savings. Can only make up 52 taels. However, the letter asked her to send 200 taels. In this year of disaster, all our relatives and friends are very poor. They are not from a wealthy family. Now that they are in trouble, what should we do? Grandma Chen felt desperate. Suddenly, she looked up and saw the 3 red fruits that Shen Ningning had given her that she had put on the cabinet and was reluctant to eat. This is a good thing, but also very expensive. Grandma Chen hesitated for a moment. I feel that instead of eating it, I might as well sell it for money and exchange whatever I can for it. The next day, she directly took the village chief's ox cart and rode into the city. Grandma Chen set up a stall with a price of 50 taels each. However, more people just pass by but don't buy. Until, a carriage stopped in front of her. Mingdao guards also reined in their tall horses and stayed around. Grandma Chen was frightened by this posture. Someone lifted the curtain, and a majestic face was revealed. Where did you get this red fruit? End of this chapter.